Hi, welcome back to Spring CS170. Before we get into chapter 3 again, see an announcement. This is for our quiz. The quiz is for American versions. So the announcement pretty much says it all. And like I said, I think I said in the earlier logistics lecture, if you have like some sort of issue, you missed the quiz or whatnot, it's not the end of the world. At the end of the semester, we're going to open up all of the quizzes so everyone can catch up on it. So really, getting points for the quiz, each quiz we're talking about 5 points, um, is not that difficult, right? These quizzes are not meant to be hard quizzes, right? Similar to the extra credit I give, these quizzes are meant to just reinforce knowledge that you're going to have on your exam, and it's a way to get points for the class, right? In a non-pressure situation, right? So it really it really is to your benefit to go ahead and do it, right? Because you get these 5 points times all the other quizzes that you get. They're kind of easy points, right? So get these points. Do it now or do it at the end of the semester when we open up all the quizzes again. Um, and really, again, whatever work you do for it, use it to take notes to prepare for the exam, right? And if there's any problems at all with this, you don't understand the answer for the question, do reach out to the TAs or myself, or post on Piazza, as I've seen some of you have started doing. Get that out there. Make sure you understand it, because chances are you're going to see the same exact question pop up on the exam. Okay? So that's it for the quiz. So let's get to work on chapter 3. So we left off here. Okay? So we were talking about communication properties of the internet. One, you have like the point-to-point. Again, it can simulate, because of the response, it can simulate a synchronous communication, but it's actually asynchronous communication, right? So important right here, synchronous, okay? Uh, but just as important is this part, mimic synchronous communication, like a phone, okay? But if someone asks you a question, specifically on a quiz or an exam, make sure you understand these points. They're kind of fine points, so you could get tripped up on it. So make sure you understand these 2 points. Um, and multicasting, okay? Remember what I said about multicasting. Basically, it goes out, but more to a smaller group, a specific group, right? So some people that are interested parties, right? Either on the sending end, where I only want to communicate to a certain party, or me on the subscribing end, where I only care about certain types of information coming out. And then this is broadcasting right here at the end. Okay. All right. So here's another thing. They kind of draw like a picture of you tracking a package from point A to point B, right? And you can see all of these different points in between as it goes across, right? So you kind of draw that to the analogy of sending information across the internet. So here you are on your computer here, and here's, let's say, a web server, okay? Don't worry too much about like the implementation of this. Just say it's a web server over here, right? To get from here, point A to point B, you have all these different hops that we'll take, right? So it's not like I have one wire that goes from my computer all the way to the web server. You have any number of these little hopping points to go from your point to over here, right? And even the piece of information that you send is not one piece of information. So let's say you have a file, right? You have a file that you're going to send from your computer to here. What's going to happen is that it's going to get chopped up into many little pieces, right? And then all those little pieces are going to go different paths, and then it's going to get reassembled over here at your destination point. Okay, that's the general idea of how these things work, right? So similar to here, you see all these different points here going from point A to point B. Same thing, all these different points here going from point A to point B, okay? And we'll go more into that in a second. Now here's the idea of a client-server interaction, right? And this is in the context of you with a computer sitting at your home or your mobile phone, right? And then let's say we've been talking about Amazon, right? So you go over to one of their servers, you want to purchase something, right? So that type of connection, the general idea of that is called a client server setup, where you are a client, your computer is a client, and let's say we're talking about the Amazon, their server would be the server. Okay, so that's a client server, and then the connectivity between that is your network, all those little points here, right? These things, okay? That's the general idea at high level. Now we get to implementation, that could be kind of a little bit more tricky, but I'm keeping it at a high level here, right? So you, client, here, server, client server, network in between, okay? That's what this is kind of showing here too, okay? All right, so these are some of the bullet points you want to keep in mind with the client server. All right, it's fundamental to internet interactions, right? Like I said, like there's not really much other different types of setups you can have, right? It's either your computer sitting at your desktop or your mobile phone or whatever, right? And it could be as complicated as this, or it could just be a single hop over to your server, but most likely it's this. And then you have any number of servers that you would connect to get any number of services. It could be your shopping, it could be for your news, or watching something, YouTube or whatever, right? Client server, okay? Um, and so every time you fire a request, you're a client, you send a request, and then there's a response, right? So it's kind of called a request response type of thing, right? And then you have a client server relationship. It's not a continuous connection. So, I'll make a request, and then that's it. And then the server, it looks like you're kind of connected to them all the time. You're not really connected to them all the time. You make a request, they're doing something, and then maybe someone else fires in a request, and they'll take in that request. So it's like a whole bunch of different requests coming in. There could be responses that will eventually come back to you, and then later on we'll talk about it in terms of locally. You'll have things like called cookies, uh, which will help you to simulate that it looks like you're constantly connected to that server, but you're not, right? So there's a whole bunch of interactions back and forth. It's not just one continuous connection where you're sending messages back and forth. This goes back to the idea before, where the asynchronous interaction uh, can be simulating um, a synchronous setup. Okay. All right. I need to hop off. I need to stop this video. Thanks. Okay. Sorry for that. I had to hop for a second. Little interruption there. Anyway, so we were talking about client server. Um, yeah. So we'll go more into some of the points I just mentioned in terms of maintaining like that connection. Not true, right? It's a whole bunch of request responses back and forth. Okay. Um, yeah, so anyway, moment in time. Here's the other picture, right? So you can see you can have any number of combinations here, right? I could be a client connecting to a whole bunch of servers, or I could be a single server here and have a whole bunch of clients interacting with it, okay? And this server kind of hops around to all the different clients. So they'll take a request here, then it'll go take a request here, take a request here. Back to my point before, it doesn't maintain a single connection with the client, because if it does, that means all these other clients are sitting around doing nothing, right? They're kind of queued up, right? So by it going round robin, circling around, doing everything, everyone feels like a quote unquote good connection to the server, this continuous connection to the server. So that's why it works like that. Okay. Here it goes, right? Appearing to stay connected, right? Multiple exchanges. It looks like a live, persistent connection, right? But it's not, all right? So, example, right? Online banking, right? You want, it feels like it, and you probably would think it should be like one continuous connection, right? But it's not, right? You fire a request, and all that time between, it's servicing a whole bunch of other requests from other customers. If it doesn't do that, there's no way it could scale up to process like thousands of people at a time, right? And just like this, right? Purchasing a concert ticket. Can you imagine if like you can only take in one request at a time, and you're always connected to that one person while they're getting their credit card information, doing whatever. It will take you ages to get things done. So that's why things are set up like this, where they hop around doing these request response type of setups. Okay, so again, appearing to stay connected, cookies, right? And we can go more into the cookies later, but basically cookies store this information, which helps it to simulate a continuous connection. Okay, it's little bits of information to help with that. Okay, and now I'm going to stop here, right? So let's pause it here, and then we're going to get into some other aspects with IP addresses and stuff. Okay, thank you.